Chief, how's in the back? Is it good? I'm in a car with plush velvet interior. Did you get a carriage ride as a kid? It's not the same. Did you get a carriage ride in the park as a kid? It is the same thing. By the way, there's no heater in the back and there's nothing to buckle up with. And then you ask why America dictated automobile fashion to the rest of the world. Cadillac Fleetwood. We immediately imagine a luxurious, huge American car. And on one hand you are right, but on the other, you're wrong. I'll try to explain to you that the real Fleetwood is not what you know it is. The story of the Cadillac Fleetwood is confusing and seems more like a capitalist fairy tale. A fairy tale about hard-working guys starting out in their barn, then growing enough to produce primitive cars, and then followed by being taken over by more successful guys from a bigger barn. This is what happened. Look at this soap opera. In 1909, Cadillac is bought by General Motors. In the 20s, Cadillac buys Fleetwood. And in 1927, production of the Cadillac Fleetwood began, where Fleetwood is not the name of the car, but essentially the name of the bodybuilder studio where it was made. Well, isn't that lovely? Just like our vase today, where only the name Lada remains. If we simplify even further, in this case the Cadillac is a chassis, the frame, engine, gearbox, axles, well, maybe also some wiring, and all the rest a flight of fantasy of a bodybuilder studio and some influence by the trends of fashion. By the way, Al Capone had a very similar Cadillac. I hope I don't have to tell you who he was. The only difference was that his was armored on the sides, and well, the color was also different, but otherwise, like twin brothers. For your understanding, the advertising brochure of 1927 offered 50 different bodywork options and 500 combinations of color and upholstery. That's what I call a choice, which means that every car like this is unique. And just to give you an idea, I'm going to show you some pictures. This is what the car originally looked like. The car was purchased by Kamishmash Company, and in 2009 year, the restoration process began. What is restoration? It's painstaking labor, not only from tinkerers, motorists, but also from furniture makers, saddlers, and tailors. But the hardest part is vehicle equipment and sourcing information. Long story short, the 1928 Cadillac Fleetwood restoration was completed only in March 2020. That's not so bad, is it? And you're the first ones to see it. Would you appreciate it? Wool velvet with long pile. This is its charm. It took a long time to find it because of its color. And do you know what it's called here? Plush! I'm in a car with plush velvet interior. In the car. The car, sir. So this fancy rich Yank comes with a footrest. In front here are additional seats for guests or servants and divine soft sofa with armrest. There's this thing right here. Hello, Chief. Cigarette lighter. You can open windows in the back. The windows are closed by curtains with an interesting mechanism. Interior light, the ashtray, pockets for all the stuff, and quite an epic space. The cubic capacity amazes average person, but trust me, it's not the biggest, most luxurious car. There have been bigger ones. The body itself is made of wood. The wooden frame is covered with metal on the outside, and I have already told you about car interior. An interesting carriage-like feature, the absence of a trunk. You could order a suitcase as an option. We've got a spare in the back covering the tank. Car for gentlemen. Squeezing behind the wheel. Shini's seat is soft, but it's hard to breathe, not enough space. And the dashboard. It's no longer wood-paneled, but painted. Interesting feature. Here, the windshield can be raised by 3 centimeters. This is to allow the flow of incoming air through this air intake into the passenger compartment. You can also adjust the backrest with a knob. It's located here on the back. What else is interesting? A whole lot. It's just that the purpose of much of it, to be honest, I don't understand yet. Hey, Chief, how's in the back? Everything okay? Few words about ventilation and heating. There are additional grills on the sides. And there's also a heater, powered by the cooling system, and working till this day. But you have to admit, in America, everything is always the best. In America, huh? Now, let's take a quick look around the car and see what else is interesting here. But let's start with the compressor. This compressor can be used to inflate tires, for example, just by connecting a hose to it. Pay attention to the shock absorber. It's a bit unusual here, but still oil-based. The lever presses on the piston and adjusts the rebound stroke. When the wheel drops, it kind of catches it with the help of a belt. And take a look at the wheel rim. The central part stays on the car, while the rim with tire are replaced. And this is the hood, aluminum. The doors are aluminum as well, and the rear part of the roof is aluminum too. And this is the engine V8. It's the same length as the previous Cadillac engines, only those were 4-cylinder ones. I believe it was with this engine that the company's breakthrough in supercar construction began. It was created in the strictest of secrecy. They used several engines as the basis, one from French Automobile de Dion and another one from an aviation Hall Scotch. As a result, almost 6 liters and 95 horsepower, battery ignition and a starter. One more thing, you see the gills on the front are closed? When the engine warms up, they open automatically, just like that. The starter is naturally there, but it is started by a button pressed with the foot, like on the old Soviet cars of the 60s. How can I describe driving the Fleetwood to you? Did you get a carriage ride as a kid? It's not the same. It feels like a Gas 51, but a luxurious one. But in general, to be honest, there's nothing to compare it to. The 3-speed transmission is a special pride of Cadillac. It's called Synchromesh, and it was created by engineer Earl Thompson from Ohio. What's so special about it? Well, it's the world's first mass-produced, fully synchronized transmission. The brakes are hydraulic, well, not so good. On an empty road it's fine, but at the crucial moment it's a bit tricky. By the way, they were replaced in the 30s. Before that, they were mechanical with cables and levers. The fact that cars of the first quarter of the last century resembled carriages with engines is also reflected in the driving experience. Very gradual, smooth rolling over bumps. With clearance of 228 millimeters, you can do a lot. There are wooden spoke wheels and leaf springs both at the front and rear. However, here's the twist. Double-acting shock absorbers Delco are installed here. Pneumatic windshield wipers. But in the Soviet Union in the 60s, with pneumatic windshield wipers, you wouldn't surprise anyone. But here's the thing. The glass here, for the first time, is a tempered one. And then you ask why America dictated automobile fashion to the rest of the world. Did you get a carriage ride in the park as a kid? It's the same thing. This feels fantastic. I'm trying to get into the character of a respectable rich man, but it's not really working out for me. It just lulls me to sleep. By the way, there's no heater in the back and there's nothing to buckle up with. I could use a little champagne in here, or better yet, a bucket. And a drinking buddy, companion. The car was in production for a long time, up until the beginning of the war. Features were changed, body and color variants were reduced. Later, the V12 appeared. The car was very popular with heads of state and senior military. Fleetwoods even participated in World War I as staff and medical vehicles. They were respected not for their luxury, but for the reliability of the chassis. Reliable engines, unpretentious. There is absolutely no vibration and no transmission hum here. The V8 engine is a very balanced. The brilliant engineer Charles Kettering positioned the pistons at a 90-degree angle in 4 planes so they balance each other out. Then everyone started doing it. How many cars were produced? I found information about 15,000 of all modifications. But American cars are a gray area, where replacing one engine with another led to the production of another special series. No, it's probably not right to compare this car to a Gas 51, but man, the steering wheel. It's the same. The play in the steering wheel is exactly the same. And what a noise the gearbox makes. Even thought it's synchronized, there's still that crunching noise. But at the same time, the engine pulls really, really hard. But they are slower, a bit slower. Now let's try to make a U-turn. So how do you, just like this, Jesus, and straighten the wheel smoothly before the car stops. Fleetwood! Before Cadillac came out in the 50s, Fleetwood wasn't the name of a car. It was more like a sticker on a modern soapbox, like a Pininfarina. But since the name Fleetwood belongs to GM, they decided to revive the old. The hunt continues.